Friends, welcome back to the Ransomed Heart podcast. John Eldredge and Craig McConnell with you here through December, and recognize that we're in the first full week of December. We are just aware of what you probably are aware of as well, and that is the rushing, incoming tide of the holidays and the busyness, the demands, all that this time of year brings. And we kind of want to speak into that, provide some clarity, some encouragement, some orientation. And let me begin with a recent story from life here at Ransomed Heart. We had assembled the leadership team, the directors that we call them, and we were all in the conference room with a huge calendar of 2016, 2017 on the wall. And we were laying out first what are the events that we're doing and filling in those gaps. Then we were laying out new projects we know are coming, different film projects, discipleship initiatives. We're trying to get it all on the board there.
Post notes everywhere.
Yeah, there were stickies all over the calendar and scribbles and writing, and Craig was trying very hard to do a color coding.
It makes life easier.
If only others would cooperate with that kind of thing.
I keep praying.
So Craig's got his color-coded stickies up on the calendar, and we're trying to kind of just orient ourselves. Okay, when's the men's advance? What are the women doing? Are we going overseas in 17? And all this stuff on the board. And we paused to pray several times during this. But one of the moments we paused to pray and we just said, okay, Jesus, what are you saying? What are you speaking into this? 2 words. 2 words. All he said was, what goes? What goes? ? In other words, we live a very full life here. We try not to live an insane life here. We try and practice Sabbath rhythms. We try and be realistic about, spacing. We don't do, a boot camp 1 week and a captivating the next week and a major book, the third week. We try and, create reasonable space between these things so that we can do everything else we need to do, email and recording podcasts and that kind of thing. But nonetheless, we're sitting here looking at, the future, 2016, 2017, and Jesus says, you can't just layer new stuff on to an already full life.
Yes.
Right? What goes?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to share that story with you, our listeners. Going into December, going into the holidays now, kind of felt like Jesus was actually saying that exact same thing to all of us. I know that what we tend to do is, okay, I've already got a very full life, but in addition to that, now I'm just going to layer on, this Christmas coffee, this trip we need to take, this shopping thing, that, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just the church events and yada, yada. And
got to see Aunt Myrtle.
Yeah, right. You can't do it.
No. Nope. And John, what's your reaction? I mean, with the calendar and with everything that you'd like to do, and all of them are good things, and Jesus says, what goes? How do you react to that when he said that? Because I reacted in 2 ways.
Go ahead.
One was just kind of that silence of, huh?
Right.
And
we can't do it all?
Well, yeah. So there were 2 reactions. One was just the relief of, okay, some things can go, or meant to go, should go, need to go. And then also just the difficulty of, so what does go? I mean, it's all good.
Yeah. It did feel like that. It felt like a severe mercy. There was a very serious tone to Jesus when he asked that.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt not demanding, but insistent. Like, guys, I'm not going to let you train wreck this thing.
Yes.
What goes?
Yes.
But also kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Such kindness. So, gang, as you begin to ramp up for the holiday season, can we just start there with what goes? I mean, if you are aware that, oh man, you got to be kidding me. I mean, my next several weeks are insanely busy. You know, I've got everything I'm doing at work or everything I'm doing at school or, you know, but in addition to that, I got to get this, and, you know. And I think Jesus is asking us, hang on. Don't make those assumptions. For one thing, just don't make the assumption that everything you've always done in the past, you have to do again. Right?
Right.
You know, yes, you've seen Aunt Myrtle every year, but have you stopped to ask Jesus, are we supposed to make that trip this year? Are we supposed to, you know, serve in the soup kitchen again this year? It was such an incredibly beautiful thing that we've done the past 3 years, but don't just layer all this stuff on, right? Don't just assume. There's this assumption. There's this assumption that it's just going to be hell and we got to get through it. Right? It's going to be absolute madness. It's going to be beautiful. There'll be some great things too, but here we go.
Yeah.
Right? Here we go. And I think Jesus is saying, hang on a second.
Yeah. Something you said, John, I want to throw back at you as a question. A severe mercy. What goes? It's like something's at stake here. That if things don't go, something's lost or there's something at stake. What is that?
Your soul. Right? We've preached on this numerous occasions, but again, you understand that you can lose your soul long before your eternal destiny. I'm not talking about salvation. I'm talking about the erosion of your being through busyness, frustration, disappointment, heartache, crazy layering of all that into absolute madness of a pace of living. And what you lose is God. You lose intimacy. You literally do lose, like, part of your soul atrophies. It gets crushed by that. It gets drained. And then you can't love as you would like to love. Then you can't, you know, the perennial question of, oh, how do we make the holidays special? Well, I can show you how not to make them special.
Yeah.
Burn yourself out before you ever get there. Right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what's at stake.
Yeah.
Is joy, love, hope, intimacy with God.
Everything you really want Christmas to be.
Everything you want this season to be, totally. So just the kindness of Jesus. First off, he just said, gang, you can't just layer it all on.
Yeah.
Your life is already full. So what goes? What's going to need to go? And then just to allow, don't make assumptions is maybe another way of what we're saying. Is you're kind of hurtling into the holiday season here, and, you know, the light of the tunnel is past, New Year's? Like, don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions of, oh, well, of course we do that. We always do that. Or, oh, well, you know, your cousin is asking to come this year, and we can't say no. And, well, hang on. Did you ask God about that? He'll guide you. He'll show you what to do, because it isn't his intention to just layer you on. Okay, here's the picture I'm getting. So the Grinch who stole Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And the little dog that he, you know, has pulling the sleigh, and he gets all the stuff piled on the sleigh, the Grinch does. And he's got the poor little Max, right? The little dog who's trying to pull the thing. Jesus doesn't intend that that's what it looks like. So question one is, what goes? What assumptions are you making that you might actually want to check in with Jesus on that?
Yeah.
The second thing that felt like he said coming into this particular podcast was, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. And by that, what Jesus was referring to is all those things that you normally do in order to have a life with God. All those things that you normally do to have a life with God, to protect your soul, to nourish your soul, so that you are like a well-watered garden. My soul is like a well-watered garden, right? You can't put a pause on that. Like, you can't just stop doing those things that are your normal spiritual life that allow you to have a life with God. Because, Craig, something goes on in me, and I'm curious if this happens for you too. Like, when you go back to LA, visit the family, doesn't it kind of feel like you get a pass on all the spiritual disciplines?
I sure hope so. It's true.
It's horrible. There's this thing in us that kind of go, oh, well, it's the holidays and it's so nice and your parents are here and, and you think you get a freebie.
Right.
You think that somehow the decorations, the music, the spirit of the season
busyness
is enough to sustain you, right? How kind of Jesus to also say, nothing's changed. You actually are still living in a love story set in a world at war. It's everything that you believed in September about the nature of reality is true now. And therefore, what do you normally do, dear friends? What do you normally do to maintain a life with God, to keep your soul a well-watered garden? Don't abandon those things. That's not what goes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's not what goes. Because, if we travel, we get back to our parents' house or friends or kind of thing, and we think, woo, right? These next 2 weeks are just off. They're you are squirming.
Yeah, because they don't have the big easy chair and the Bible and then my pen holder with 14 colors to highlight according to color codes that I've established. It's a different environment, and it's so hard to get moved out of my natural, normal context into that and to keep the rhythm going. My rhythm is so attached to stuff. And
a place?
Yes, and I'm realizing that I assume wrongly that there are passes, that Jesus is kind of going, yeah, it's a busy time of year and everything, and we'll pick it up mid-January.
Yes. See you in January.
Yeah. It's true. I know what you're saying. It's true. It's hard enough normally in the holidays because it's so hard to keep that rhythm.
And therefore something else goes.
Yes.
Not your life with God.
Yes.
Not your life with God. Do you really need to go, make that drive to see the Christmas lights? Or what do you really need is an evening of worship, right? Do you really need to dash out of the house early this morning so you can go get that extra little special stocking stuffer? Or do you actually need your normal time with God?
Yeah. Yeah. That stocking stuffer would make the Christmas morning so much more meaningful. I'm guilty.
Nothing has changed, was the phrase Jesus said. Two things. What goes, meaning all those assumptions you're making about, no, we're going to maintain the full life we have right now, and we're going to layer on a whole new bunch of stuff for the next 4 weeks. And Jesus is going, really? If you want to check in with me on any of that stuff? That's one piece. And then the other piece is Jesus' reminder of nothing of the reality of the world has actually changed. There's no freebies, no passes. This isn't some sort of special dispensation. Everything you believe about your need for God, everything you believe about the war, everything you need to stay strong, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Right? None of that changes over the holidays. I think that subtle little assumption that somehow it does is what knocks a lot of us sideways.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
You get to January and you're like, it begins with the typical list of repentance.
Yeah. Right? Resolutions. I will not.
Now, just a couple kind of early season helps here, warnings, counsel, instructions, flares. All right? What goes in the other sense of your life with God? Nothing's changed.
Yes.
Next week, we'd love to speak more into a positive direction of what are some of the things that we do to make this time of year actually really good. So back with that next week. You've been listening to the Ransomed Heart podcast with John Eldredge and Craig McConnell here in the week of December 7th.